Have you ever experienced a night that felt like it was pulled straight from a dream? A night where the ordinary transformed into the extraordinary? Join me as I take you back to that haunting sound of a flute echoed through the darkness, weaving a tale of mystery and wonder. What secrets did it hold? What stories were waiting to be uncovered? Let's dive into The Night We Heard the Flute. You sure about this, man? My voice was barely a whisper. The night seemed to swallow every sound, making even the smallest noise feel amplified. The park, usually bustling with life during the day, now felt like a different world altogether. The fog hung low, wrapping around the trees and benches like a ghostly shroud. The streetlights cast long, creepy shadows across the empty park. Each shadow seemed to move and shift, playing tricks on our eyes. It was as if the park itself was alive, watching us, waiting for something. The eerie silence was occasionally broken by the distant hoot of an owl or the rustling of leaves in the gentle breeze. John laughed, but it was a nervous laugh. "Come on, scared," he teased, trying to lighten the mood. But I could see the unease in his eyes, the way he kept glancing over his shoulder. It was clear that he felt it too, the weight of the stories, the legends that surrounded this place. He bumped my shoulder playfully. "It's just a park," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. We both knew it wasn't just any park. This place had a history, a dark one. Stories of disappearances, strange sightings, and unexplained phenomena had been passed down for generations. Easy for him to say. He didn't grow up hearing the stories, the whispers about what happened here after the sun went down, the tales of people who ventured into the park at night and were never seen again, the ghostly apparitions that were said to roam the paths, searching for something, or someone. He didn't grow up hearing the stories, the whispers about what happened here after the sun went down, the tales of people who ventured into the park at night and were never seen again, the ghostly apparitions that were said to roam the paths, searching for something, or someone. The air was thick with tension, every step we took seemed to echo in the stillness. We walked deeper into the park, the air growing heavy, the silence broken only by the crunch of our footsteps on the gravel path. Each step felt like a journey into the unknown, the fog growing denser, the shadows darker. The path seemed to stretch on forever, leading us further away from the safety of the park's entrance. The deeper we went, the more the stories played in my mind, each one more terrifying than the last. It was as if the park was a living entity, drawing us in, testing our courage, and with every step, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. "See, nothing to be scared of," John said, his voice louder now. He always tried to be the brave one, the protector. But tonight, even his voice had a slight tremor. The park, usually a place of laughter and joy during the day, had transformed into a shadowy maze of uncertainty. The trees, which provided shade and comfort in the sunlight, now loomed like dark sentinels, their branches swaying ominously in the night breeze. He was trying to convince himself as much as me. I could see it in his eyes, the way they darted around, scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. His hand, which held mine tightly, was slightly clammy. It was a small detail, but it spoke volumes about his true feelings. But something felt off. The hairs on the back of my neck prickled. It was as if the very air around us was charged with an unseen energy, a palpable tension that made it hard to breathe. Every rustle of leaves, every distant hoot of an owl, seemed amplified, echoing in the stillness of the night. A shiver ran down my spine. It wasn't just the cold, it was a deep instinctual fear, the kind that gnaws at the edges of your consciousness, making you hyper-aware of every sound, every shadow. I tried to shake it off, to focus on John's reassuring presence, but the feeling persisted. We reached the old bandstand, its paint peeling, the stage empty and silent. It stood as a relic of happier times, now forgotten and neglected. The wind whistled through the cracks, creating an eerie melody that only added to the sense of foreboding. I could almost hear the echoes of past performances, the laughter and applause now replaced by an unsettling silence. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow on the surrounding trees. Its pale light filtered through the branches, creating ghostly patterns on the ground. It was beautiful in a haunting way, a stark contrast to the darkness that enveloped us. The moonlight seemed to highlight the isolation, the vast emptiness of the park at this hour. "This place is creepy," I admitted, my voice hushed. It felt like we were intruding on something ancient and powerful, something that didn't want us there. The words hung in the air, a shared acknowledgement of the unease that had been building between us. John nodded, his bravado slipping for a moment, replaced by a look of genuine concern. Maybe we should head back. The suggestion was met with a silent agreement. We turned, our steps quickening as we retraced our path. The park, once a place of solace, now felt like a labyrinth of shadows, each step echoing with the unspoken fear that had gripped us both. As we walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that something unseen was following us, lurking just beyond the edge of the light. John was about to reply when we heard it. A faint sound carried on the night air, a melody. It was a flute, playing a slow, mournful tune. It was beautiful, haunting, and definitely out of place in a deserted park at night. "What is that?" John's voice was tight. He was scared now, I could hear it. We listened, transfixed, as the music drifted through the trees, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. The music stopped abruptly. The silence that followed was deafening. My heart pounded in my chest. Then we heard it again, the flute. But this time it was closer, louder, more insistent. "Okay, this is freaking me out," John said, his voice barely a whisper. "Let's go." He turned to leave, but I grabbed his arm. "Wait," I hissed. "Do you hear that?" Section 5. Frozen with fear. The music had stopped, but something else had started. A rustling sound, like something was moving through the trees, coming towards us. John's eyes widened, he heard it too. We stood there, frozen, our breath catching in our throats. The rustling grew louder, closer, then we saw it, a flash of movement in the shadows. Something large, something dark. Section 6. Running for our lives. We didn't wait to see anymore. We turned and ran, our blood pumping, our lungs burning. The sound of our own panicked breaths filled our ears. The rustling followed us, faster now, angrier. We raced through the darkness, dodging trees, our feet slipping on the damp grass. But the sound was gaining on us. Section 7. Back to reality. We burst out of the park, gasping for air, our legs screaming for mercy. We didn't stop running until we reached John's car, parked under the streetlight. We collapsed against the car, our chests heaving. The silence was almost as unnerving as the sounds we had just heard. "What was that?" John finally choked out, his voice trembling. I shook my head, too scared to even speak. What had we stumbled upon in the darkness of that park? Section 8. Searching for answers. The next day, I scoured the internet, searching for any mention of strange happenings in the park. I spent hours diving deep into forums, blogs, and news archives, hoping to find even the smallest clue. My fingers flew over the keyboard, typing in various combinations of keywords, trying to unlock the mystery that had gripped my mind since that eerie night. Legends, myths, anything that could explain what we had experienced. I found nothing. I even turned to old books and ancient texts, hoping that perhaps some forgotten lore might shed light on our encounter. The pages were filled with tales of spirits and otherworldly beings, but none seemed to match the chilling reality we faced. No news reports, no online forums, no whispered tales. It was as if the park's secrets were too dark, too hidden to be captured by the written word. Frustration grew as every lead turned into a dead end. The more I searched, the more elusive the truth became. It was like the park held its secrets close, refusing to reveal them to the outside world. The fog that often blanketed the park seemed to symbolize the shroud of mystery that surrounded it. Every path I took in my research led me back to the same place, uncertainty. But I knew what I had heard, the whispers, the footsteps, the feeling of being watched. These were not figments of my imagination. They were real, and they had left an indelible mark on my psyche. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more, something just beyond my grasp. What we had both heard. My friend and I had shared that moment of terror, and it had bonded us in a way that only such experiences can. We often found ourselves discussing it, trying to make sense of the inexplicable. Each conversation only deepened our resolve to uncover the truth. And I knew we would never forget the terror of that night. The memory of it was etched into our minds, a constant reminder of the unknown that lurked in the shadows. We were determined to find answers, no matter how long it took or how deep we had to dig. The park's secrets would not remain hidden forever. Section 9. The mystery remains. Sometimes, when I'm alone at night, I think I can still hear it. The faint, mournful melody of a flute carried on the wind. A chilling reminder of the night we heard the flute in the park, and I wonder, what was that creature lurking in the shadows? Was it drawn to the music? Or were we just pawns in a game we didn't understand? Some questions, I guess, are better left unanswered.